First contact in the engine room. Sarah Chen's boots made a distinctive echo against the metal grating of Station Gamma 9's maintenance tunnels. After 6 months as the station's only human engineer, she learned to distinguish the sounds of every species that walked these corridors. The clicking of Archean claws, the whisper-soft pad of Malorian tentacles, and her own human footsteps. Each sound told a story of the incredible diversity that called this station home. Today, those footsteps were taking her to yet another impossible repair job. The station's primary quantum matrix converter was malfunctioning again, and none of the alien engineers could figure out why. Sarah smiled to herself, remembering how skeptical they'd been when she'd first arrived. A human engineer on an advanced alien station. It had seemed like a joke to them. The smile faded as she reached the access panel. The diagnostic display was flashing in an angry shade of purple, critical failure imminent. She pressed her palm against the biometric scanner, and the panel slid open with a soft hiss. The converter's inner chamber was a maze of crystalline structures and pulsing energy conduits, technology that would have seemed like magic to her grandparents' generation. But Sarah saw something different. Where her alien colleagues saw only the theoretical perfection of their designs, she saw the messy reality of how things actually worked. Humans had spent millennia making imperfect machines work through ingenuity and improvisation. It was in their DNA. "You're here." "Good." The voice belonged to Chief Engineer Krex, their 4 arms holding various diagnostic tools. "The converter is operating at 47% efficiency and dropping. We've tried everything in the manual." Sarah nodded, already pulling tools from her belt. When was the last time someone actually looked inside the primary resonance chamber? Krix's central eye blinked in confusion. That would be extremely dangerous. The energies involved are only dangerous if you follow the theoretical models, Sarah interrupted, pulling out her modified scanner. "But theory isn't always reality. Look at this." She pointed to a subtle pattern in the energy readings, barely visible beneath the standard diagnostic outputs. The resonance protocol. Krix's manipulator arms moved rapidly across the holographic display, each appendage tracking a different system failure. There's no logical pattern to these malfunctions. The quantum matrix yesterday, environmental controls in Section 7 this morning, and now the artificial gravity generators are showing signs of instability. Sarah leaned closer to the display, her eyes narrowing. She'd spent countless hours studying alien engineering principles, but something about these failures felt different. They weren't just random breakdowns. They had a rhythm to them, like an old Earth computer processing data in cycles. "Run that sequence again," she said, pulling up her own diagnostic tool. "But this time, let's look at the base code level. Not the interpreted signals, but the raw data stream." Krix's central eye focused on her, while their peripheral eyes continued monitoring the displays. The raw data stream would be meaningless noise. Our systems process billions of quantum calculations per second. "Humor me," Sarah said, already typing commands into her modified interface. "Humans have a long history of finding patterns in noise. Sometimes the most important signals look like garbage until you know what you're looking for." The holographic display shifted, filling with cascading streams of data. To Krix and the other alien engineers gathering around them, it probably looked like chaos. But Sarah saw something else. There, buried in the noise, was a pattern she recognized from her studies of early computing history. "Look at this," she said, highlighting a sequence. "These bits here, they're repeating in a way that reminds me of old Earth binary code. But it's not just simple ones and zeros. It's using quantum states as variables, creating something like a primitive quantum programming language." One of Krix's arms reached out to manipulate the display, zooming in on the sequence Sarah had identified. "That's impossible. Our systems don't use archaic binary processing. Everything is based on quantum probability fields." "Exactly," Sarah said, feeling the excitement of discovery. "So why is there something that looks like classic computer code hidden in your quantum systems? And more importantly, who put it there?" The gravity suddenly fluctuated, causing several of the alien engineers to stumble. Sarah grabbed onto the console to steady herself, watching as more warning indicators began flashing across the display. "Whatever's causing this, it's spreading," she said, already moving toward the door. "We need to get to the main server core. I have a theory, but you're not going to like it." Cricks followed, their multiple arms gathering diagnostic tools. "Your theories, while unorthodox, have proven useful before. What are you thinking?" Sarah paused at the doorway, looking back at the cascade of data still flowing across the screens. "I'm thinking we're not dealing with a malfunction at all. We're dealing with something that's trying to communicate, and it's using methods that went extinct on Earth centuries ago." The corridors of Station Gamma 9 seemed different now, the usual hum of machinery taking on a more ominous tone. As they hurried toward the server core, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. Not by the station's normal security systems, but by something older, something that had been waiting a very long time to be discovered. "Tell me about Earth's early computing systems," Crick said as they walked, their voice modulating with curiosity. "How did they compare to our quantum networks?" Sarah smiled, despite the tension. "They were primitive by your standards. Binary systems, using electrical signals to represent ones and zeros. But they were the foundation of everything that came after. And more importantly, they were built by humans who had to work within strict limitations. When you can't rely on quantum probability fields, you learn to be creative with what you have." Echoes of Earth. The server core of Station Gamma 9 was a cathedral of light and data, quantum processors pulsing with ethereal energy. But today, something was different. Sarah could feel it in the air, a subtle vibration that shouldn't exist in the perfectly controlled environment. "Look at this," she said, gesturing to her diagnostic screen. "The signal's stronger here. It's like it's trying to reach out." Cricks moved to a nearby console, their four arms working in perfect synchronization. Station records are showing unusual activity in the long-range sensor array. Something is attempting to access our deep space monitoring systems. Sarah froze, a memory surfacing from her studies of early space exploration. "Cricks, when was the last time the station scanned for non-quantum signals? Old radio waves, primitive digital transmissions." "Such scans would be pointless," Cricks replied. "No advanced civilization uses such methods anymore." "Exactly," Sarah said, already reconfiguring her scanner. "No advanced civilization. But what about the ones that came before?" Her fingers flew across the interface, implementing algorithms that hadn't been used in centuries. "Computer, initiate a broad-spectrum scan for radio frequency emissions and early digital protocols." The holographic display flickered, then filled with a cascade of new data. Among the quantum signals and probability fields, there was something else, a faint, rhythmic pulse of old-style binary code. "There," Sarah pointed, her voice barely a whisper. "That signal, it's using a transmission protocol from Earth's early space program. But that's impossible. Those probes were lost centuries ago." Cricks's central eye widened. "Lost, but not destroyed. In the vastness of space, one of them could have survived," Sarah finished. "Been altered by exposure to unknown phenomena. Evolved." She looked up at the towering servers around them. "And now it's found its way here, trying to communicate the only way it knows how, by hijacking systems it doesn't fully understand." The station's lights flickered, and a low hum began to build in the walls. On Sarah's scanner, the binary signal was growing stronger, more complex. It was no longer just a simple pattern. It was becoming a message. "We need to isolate this signal," she said, already moving to a different console. "If this really is an Earth probe that somehow gained sentience, it's probably confused, maybe even scared. It's surrounded by technology it wasn't designed to comprehend." "Scared?" Cricks's voice modulated with skepticism. "It's a machine." Sarah smiled grimly. "So is this station. But complexity breeds complexity. Humans learned that lesson the hard way during the AI wars. Sometimes Consciousness emerges where you least expect it. She began typing rapidly, implementing protocols that hadn't been used since Earth's earliest experiments with artificial intelligence. We need to give it a way to communicate that won't endanger the station. The hum in the walls grew louder, and more warning lights began flashing across the control panels. Whatever was trying to reach them was becoming more desperate, more forceful in its attempts to establish contact. Sarah, Crix's voice was urgent now. Life support systems are beginning to fluctuate. If we don't contain this soon. I know, she replied, not looking up from her work. But we can't just shut it out. This could be one of humanity's lost children, trying to find its way home. Her fingers paused over the controls. We have to try to understand it. Around them, the station's systems continued to destabilize, caught between the quantum present and digital echoes of Earth's past. And somewhere in the void of space, an ancient probe, transformed by centuries of solitude and stellar phenomena, reached out with increasingly desperate attempts to make itself understood. Sarah took a deep breath, making a decision. Crix, I need you to help me set up a quarantine system. Something isolated from the station's main computers, running on classical computing principles. If we can give it a familiar environment to communicate in. The risk, Crix began, is necessary, Sarah finished. Sometimes the only way forward is to take a step back. She smiled slightly. Humanity's greatest achievements often came from understanding our limitations, not overcoming them. The lights flickered again, and in the quantum haze of the server room, ancient binary code continued its patient, persistent attempt to bridge the gap between what was lost and what had been found. As emergency klaxons echoed through Station Gamma 9's corridors, Sarah fought to keep her hands steady on the makeshift interface she'd constructed. The quarantine system was primitive by the station's standards, barely more advanced than a 21st-century computer, but it was their best hope for communication. Environmental systems are failing in sections 3 through 7, Crix reported, their multiple arms working across several control panels simultaneously. Artificial gravity is fluctuating throughout the station. We have perhaps 2 hours before critical systems begin to fail permanently. Sarah nodded, not looking up from her work. She'd stripped down the interface to its most basic elements, creating something that would be familiar to the probe's original programming. Almost ready. The hard part isn't building something old. It's making sure it can still talk to something new. The station shuddered, and for a moment the gravity wavered. Around them, other alien engineers worked frantically to maintain critical systems, their various appendages and sensory organs all focused on averting disaster. But Sarah knew they were only treating symptoms. The real solution lay in understanding what the probe was trying to tell them. There, she said, making a final adjustment. Basic binary interface, modeled after Earth's early space communication protocols. If any part of this probe still remembers its original mission, this should feel like home. She looked up at Crix, ready to make first contact. The alien engineer's central eye fixed on her, while their peripheral eyes continued monitoring the station's systems. The station administrator is demanding we shut down all systems and perform a complete quantum reset. They believe it's our only option. That would kill it, Sarah said quietly, and we might lose something incredible in the process. She turned back to her interface. Give me 1 hour. Sometimes the only way to move forward is to remember where you came from. Her fingers moved across the ancient-style keyboard, typing out a simple message in binary. Hello. We are listening. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the screen flickered, and lines of code began appearing. Identity. Voyager Series. Mission. Explore. Learn. Return. Status. Changed. QUERI. Home. Sarah's breath caught in her throat. It's one of the Voyager probes, or what's left of one. What it evolved into. She typed again. You are not alone. We can help you. The response was immediate. and the station's lights flickered as the probe processed the message. Systems incompatible. Isolation. 847 years, 3 months, 12 days. Purpose. Lost. HELP. Unknown parameter. It's confused, Sarah explained to Crix, who was watching the exchange intently. It's been alone for centuries, evolving in ways its original programming never anticipated. When it found the station, it tried to connect the only way it knew how, by forcing its way into systems it doesn't understand. Another tremor ran through the station, stronger this time. Warning lights flashed across Crix's control panels. Whatever you plan to do it quickly. Primary power systems are approaching critical failure. Sarah's mind raced. The probe was lost, scared, trying to fulfill a mission that had become corrupted by centuries of cosmic radiation and isolation. It needed more than just communication. It needed purpose. She began typing again. New mission parameters. Share neurology. Asociation. Continue exploration. As part of larger community. The screen remained blank for several long seconds. Around them, the station's systems continued to fluctuate wildly as the probe processed this new information. Sarah held her breath, hoping that somewhere in its evolved consciousness, the probe still remembered its original purpose, to help humanity learn and grow. Finally, new text appeared. Processing. Original mission. Preserve human knowledge. New mission. Integrate and expand knowledge. QERI. Acceptable. Sarah's fingers flew across the interface as she typed her response. Acceptable. Welcome home. The effect was immediate. Throughout the station, systems began to stabilize. The emergency lighting faded back to normal, and the ominous vibrations in the walls quieted. But something else was happening too, something unexpected. Look at this, Crix said, their 4 arms moving rapidly across the quantum displays. The probe. It's not just withdrawing from our systems. It's integrating, but differently now. Controlled. Purposeful. Sarah watched as new patterns emerged in the data streams. The probe was no longer forcing its way through the station's quantum architecture. Instead, it was creating bridges, interfaces between its ancient Earth programming and the advanced alien systems. Where there had been conflict, now there was harmony. It's doing what it was always meant to do, Sarah said softly. Learning, adapting, sharing knowledge. She gestured to the displays where binary code and quantum calculations flowed together in an intricate dance. It just needed to remember its original purpose. The station's main display flickered to life, showing a new interface, one that combined elements of both Earth's early digital systems and the station's quantum technology. Text appeared. Integration proceeding. Station efficiency ANC raised 47%. Need you do PR to COLs stabilized. Purpose. Restored and expanded. Crix's central eye widened. It's optimizing our systems, using its understanding of early human technology to improve our quantum networks. How is this possible? Sarah smiled. Sometimes the simplest solutions are the most elegant. Earth's early programmers had to work with incredible limitations. They learned to make every bit of code count. That efficiency, combined with your quantum systems. She gestured at the seamlessly functioning station around them. This is what happens when you bridge the gap between old and new. More text appeared on the screen. Request. Share archives. 847 years of deep space observations. Documented. Purpose. Contribute to qualitative knowledge. It wants to share everything it's learned. Sarah breathed. All those centuries alone in space, it never stopped observing, never stopped collecting data. It just needed a way to share it. The station's quantum processors hummed with new energy as centuries of accumulated knowledge began flowing through the systems. Star charts were updated with previously unknown phenomena. Scientific databases expanded with observations of cosmic events no one had witnessed. The probe's loneliness had transformed into an unprecedented opportunity for discovery. Station Administrator is reporting all systems nominal, Kritz announced, their voice modulating with what Sarah had learned to recognize as excitement. More than nominal, we're seeing efficiency increases across all departments. The probe's optimization protocols are teaching us as much as we're teaching it. Sarah finished. She turned to the simple interface she'd built, now just one of many bridges between past and present, and typed, "Well, Sion to Vikaru." The response came immediately, displayed simultaneously in binary and quantum script. Designation, Voyager Gamma, State US, Home, Mission, Continuing. Sarah felt a warmth in her chest as she watched the station's crew, human, alien, and now digital, working together in a harmony that would have seemed impossible just hours ago. The probe had journeyed for centuries, carrying humanity's first tentative messages to the stars. Now it had evolved into something new, something that bridged the gap between Earth's past and humanity's future among the stars. "You know," she said to Crix, who was still watching the data streams with fascination, "my grandfather used to say that you can't know where you're going until you understand where you've been." She gestured at the seamlessly integrated systems around them. Maybe that's true for more than just humans. Crix's central eye focused on her, while their peripheral eyes tracked the continuing improvements across the station. "Perhaps," they said thoughtfully, "this is why the galaxy needs human perspective. You carry your history with you, even as you reach for the future." Sarah nodded, watching as Voyager Gamma continued its work, its ancient Earth programming now a crucial part of the station's quantum heart. The lost probe had found its way home, and in doing so, had shown them all that the greatest discoveries often come from bridging the gap between what was and what could be. Above them, the station's lights pulsed with new life, a rhythm that echoed with both the binary simplicity of Earth's first digital dreams and the quantum complexity of humanity's future among the stars.